Homelessness, as far as we know, can be traced back to the 16th century, where people were left out in the streets as beggars and scavengers. If we see the course of history, we can observe how over the years, homelessness has changed and has been viewed in different forms, but nevertheless, still homelessness. As far back as the 16th century, in the colonial era, we have observed in our history textbooks how beggars wandered the streets, asking for money and searching for food any means necessary. Today, these wanderers are known as beggars who are living in different parts of the cities.
Send hundreds of homeless people from the Santa Ana riverbed to several Orange County cities has apparently been flipped.
Yes, now they're looking into sending all of them to one city. And CBS 2 Orange County reporter Michelle Gili is live in the city that could take them all in. Irvine, Michelle.
And in the words of the Irvine mayor, this is simply a Band-Aid. He says if this plan even goes through, when you take a look at the vacant land behind me, the mayor says this is hardly a place for a tent city. It has no water, no electricity, no sewer system, and there are many other problems. The homeless camping out in Santa Ana's Civic Center and a few hundred more who've been relocated from the riverbed could be moved to Irvine's Great Park under the new plan suggested by Orange County Supervisor Lisa Bartlett.
It's about trust and partnerships.
Supervisor Todd Spitzer, whose district includes Irvine, opposes the idea of a tent city on this parcel of land. He says these are the people who've refused to go to the shelters and they don't belong near soccer fields and neighborhoods.
These, in my opinion, are the population that's the worst of the worst. And they do include sex offenders. They do include people coming out of our state prison that have been dumped into our communities. And it's just not appropriate.
There have been threats of litigation ever since the Board of Supervisors voted Monday to put the homeless in tents in 3 different cities, Laguna Niguel, Huntington Beach, and Irvine. Today in Irvine, residents offered this.
Well, Irvine needs to think about the community and not just itself. They need to think about Orange County as a whole, and the homeless problem is a problem.
There's going to be a lot of a fight, I think, by a lot of people here. Personally, as someone who lives here, I'm open to ideas that explore ways to kind of solve that in the best possible manner.
Late last night, after hundreds stormed the Laguna Niguel City Council meeting, Supervisor Bartlett told the crowd that she'd introduce the Irvine plan next week. Irvine's mayor is not at all happy.
And at this point, this land to house a population that is already established, that it is unwilling in large measure to seek help, which is why you have all of the drug use in that community. It's why you have all of the waste, the tons and tons of human waste that were pulled out of the riverbed. There's no sense, in my mind, to recreating that in Irvine.
Los Angeles is portrayed to be an astonishing rich city where big opportunities are offered and people make a good living. What advertisements and people in general don't tell you is the number of individuals roaming the streets every day and camping out at night without any shelter. Being the second most popular city in the U.S. with over 18.7 million residents, Los Angeles has one of the highest homeless populations. There are 58,000 homeless people living in the LA area, Venice, Hollywood, Santa Monica, Dickinson, and Skid Row being the biggest. These men, women, and children are drastically affected. 3 out of the 4 homeless people, 41,000, live in cars, campers, tents, under bridges and freeway passes, parks, and sheltered people in any U.S. city. It has come to a point in life where homeless people camp or roam out in the streets with their carts full of stuff, and people are accustomed to it. Taking extraordinary action in 2017, the County of LA voted to raise taxes in order to fund an enormous multi-billion-dollar 10-year program of housing and social service for the homeless.
I've been homeless since 2008.
What's the worst part?
Being out here 24/7.
The worst part is seeing what people go through out here. My girl, the love of my life, the only one that never cheated on me, is the one that died right next to me on this cement.
People take the lungs, you know.
living outside in the streets and trying to find some sort of shelter.
Not be able to like gravitate towards like a family, invitation.
What would it take for you to get off the street?
Housing. Get a room, spend little on food, whatever I have left, or eat good, and be out here.
What would it take for you to get off the street?
Only God knows. I don't know. You know what I mean? But what I do know is that I will not lose my faith. You can take everything from me, but you will not take my faith.
What stood in the way of you getting housing?
Oh,
or getting off the street?
A lot of stuff. Yeah, emotional problems. My AIDS virus.
What was the third thing you said?
Nothing, my AIDS virus and stuff. AIDS.
What will help you actually get off the street?
Probably finding some work for myself.
Basically, all I need is like a week in a non-shelter just to get a job.
I lost my job in 2008.
The company that I used to work for went bankrupt.
Because I can't find any work for myself.
Yeah, I was part of the system.
Prison. David Hamilton.
Saul Guerrero Andrade.
Never dead. Julius.
Alex.
The Family Reunification Program in San Diego pays for one-way bus tickets so homeless people can live with their family. Between early 2012 through mid-2017, it bused a total of 1,100 people, with 600 being in the last 8 months since the data was collected then. This Greyhound therapy is considered a success, and officials have doubled its grant. Another solution to homelessness is permanent supportive housing, in which a person can transition from homeless to achieving life goals. A study on single individuals over the age of 40 found obstacles in mental health and lack of life goals. The average age of participants at study enrollments was 54.5 years, and 69% identified as male. More than half of the participants were Black African American, and more than 3/4 had a high school education, and 62% had children. The average number of reported life goals at each point was approximately 2. Life goals at PSH are like financial goals, like how to instill good practices and avoid bad practices. Moneyness management was common with military veterans. Physical health goals increase in PSH as well as mental health. But after 12 months, a third of the group felt nothing had changed or need to better themselves as well. And only about 20% kept the same goals in mind, while another third reported that their goals had changed for the better. A common reason for further decision is that as person moved into the PSH, their want for independence decreased since they were housed and became complacent. Other factors to consider were substance abuse children and substance abuse after being driving factors for change.
What is permanent supportive housing? In 2006, Malcolm Gladwell wrote an article for the New Yorker magazine about a man he called $1 Million Murray, a veteran who was homeless who, over the course of a decade, had run up $1 million medical bill in hospitalizations, substance abuse counseling, and the like. It costs more money to ignore Murray than to provide housing and support services. As Gladwell wrote, solving homelessness is less expensive than managing it. As we say, homelessness is expensive. We should invest in solutions. Connecticut has $1 Million Murrays as well. About a third of Connecticut's homeless are considered chronically homeless, like Murray. The federal government considers a person chronically homeless if that person has experienced homelessness for a year or longer, or has experienced at least 4 episodes of homelessness in the last 3 years and has a disability. A family with an adult member who meets this description would also be considered chronically homeless. For many of the people who are chronically homeless, housing must include supportive services, such as substance abuse counseling or mental health services. And even providing all the services they need for as long as they need it is still less expensive than ignoring them. Homeless shelters? Vital in the short run, but shelters are not designed to offer long-term solutions. Permanent supportive housing? Far cheaper in the long run with better outcomes for the residents. So we can address the issue the more expensive, less effective way, or we can build permanent supportive housing.
Homelessness isn't just a case of bad luck or God being mad at an individual. It's a tribulation that could stifle any one of our well-beings at any given moment. It's a human being experiencing hard times and worthlessness, or just not mentally able to adapt to the social norm. They, like any of us, at any given time, may need a little help to get their life back on track, whether it's being reunited with families, to give daily assistance, or perhaps a starter home that will allow them to be able to focus on hygiene, substance abuse, and mental health. Because without the basic necessities, how are we supposed to take care of ourselves and others?